I'm going to give you 12 wide receivers that's going to help you get through the playoffs and win your fantasy leagues. These are players that are trending upwards over the last 4 or 5 weeks. This list is going to be a little bit more chalkier since you guys are in the playoffs and a lot of your teams are good. So most of these guys are fringe starters, a couple waiver wire guys, maybe in your league, depending on how your league's set up. But these are guys you need to pay attention to because their work rates are increasing. So let's dig into our first wide receiver here. First wide receiver we're going to talk about is Zay Jones, wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last 4 games, he's seen 43 targets, 10.8 targets per game, a 28.5% target share, and 396 air yards. That's an elite workload. He's pushing a 30% target share, which is pretty alpha, almost 100 air yards per game. The next wide receiver we're going to be looking at here is Josh Palmer of the Chargers. Last 5 games, 42 targets, 8.4 targets per game, 37 routes per game, 90 air yards per game. But remember, Mike Williams is back, but the workload's there. Herbert's trending up, so we could have some good matchups for him here in the near future. Next one we're going to look at here is Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders. In his last 4 games, he's seen 36 targets. He's averaging 9 targets per game. He's running 30 routes per game and 123 air yards per game, so he's getting the workload, and it's looking consistent. Another wide receiver here who is on the bounce up and is looking good with the workload here is Michael Gallup. In his last 5 games, he's seen 6.4 targets per game and 18.7% target share. He's been running 24 routes per game and has seen 80 air yards per game. So the volume is turning up for him as well. This next wide receiver is also seeing good volume. We've been talking about him all season long, and now he's been trendy. He's been a trendy player to pick up off waivers, a starter here and there, and that's Mac Hollins of the Raiders. Last 5 games, 6.6 targets per game, 21% target share, which is huge considering Devontae Adams is there. He's running 33 routes per game and 72 air yards per game. So that's a tremendous workload. He really should be rostered in all leagues. This wide receiver is a rookie, and a lot of people have been fading him because of his team, but the workload is always there. So he could always be a possibility for you just because targets are flowing. And we're talking about Drake London. And in his last 4 games, he's seen 6.3 targets per game. He's been running 26 routes per game and has seen 67 air yards per game. So targets are going his way. So there's going to be a game or two where he just connects on those. Another wide receiver who we may want to think about, but I think the spreadsheet is more bullish than I am here, is Isaiah McKenzie of the Bills. Last 5 games here, 5.2 targets per game. He's running 24 routes per game. He's seen 41 air yards per game. Remember, Cole Beasley's coming back. Remember, Isaiah Crowder could be coming back. And this is very volatile for Isaiah McKenzie. Another volatile wide receiver you may want to look at if you're really hurting and you need to get somebody off waivers is Julio Jones. He's been turning upward in terms of workload. Last 4 games, he's seen 5.8 targets per game, seen 6 deep targets. Those targets are over 20 yards. He's had a 13.1 target share and 77 air yards per game. Another wide receiver. He should be rostered in your leagues, but he could be on waivers depending on how things are set up, is Paris Campbell of the Colts. His last 4 games has seen some decent amount of workload here. 5.8 targets per game, an 18.4% target share. He's been running 30.5 routes per game, or 31 routes per game if you want to round up. 34 air yards per game, so he's getting a lot of short targets, but he's got the speed to get the yards after the catch. Another wide receiver, he should be rostered in a lot of leagues, but he gets volume. He's kind of consistent, and not a lot of people think about him. That's Robert Woods. In his last 5, seen 6.4 targets per game, a 19.9% target share. He's running 25.8 routes per game and 20.3 air yards per game. So Robert Woods is a guy you can get per volume here. Another guy who's been getting some volume due to a quarterback change, you probably already know now, Elijah Moore for the Jets. His last 4 has been seeing 5.5 targets per game, 18.5 routes per game, and 60 air yards per game. He is trending up, and his roster rate is a lot lower than what you would think, so he could be on waivers in a lot of leagues. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a wide receiver that we've been talking about a lot. He should be rostered in a ton of leagues by now because he's been consistently seeing volume, but in his last 5, 6.8 targets per game, 20.2% target share, and he's running 29 0.4 routes per game and getting almost 100 air yards with 91 per game. So the volume's here, and this should only allow him to be consistent going forward, allow him to have some upside going forward. So he's a guy you really need to think about in your lineups for the rest of the season. But these are 12 wide receivers that are trending up due to the numbers. Of course, there are other ones, but those are bigger name players that obviously you're just starting, but these are more like fringe guys on your bench or on your flex or your last wide receiver that you need to be thinking about, these numbers, or at least know about them if you're not aware. But let me know in the comments below which wide receivers you're starting in your playoffs for round 1 this week. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'm only going to help you out with waiver wire content, sneaky start videos, must start videos, dynasty content, NFL draft content, and everything else. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.